केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। ॐ नमः प्रणवार्थाय शुद्धज्ञानैकमूर्तये निर्मलाय प्रशान्ताय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। Any text which reveals to us the truth of the self, which tells us after we have been able to, through reasoning and analysis and logic, recognized that the Sharira cannot be I. But then I don't know how to understand I. So any text which helps us understand that, which reveals that, is called Moksha Jnanam or Moksha Grantham. Because it is moksha. Once one understands the true nature of the self, and the key thing there is that I, the self, is never bound, was never bound. Not by time, not by space, not by any object, nor by any of the other things that we talk about in the Jagat. Relationships, feelings, thoughts, ideas. And that recognition that I am free is moksha. Moksha is absolute freedom. So anything which can reveal that to us, which can make us understand that, is called Moksha Shastra. Now we have a variety of Moksha Shastra written, and very broadly can be classified into those which are Apaurusheya and those that are written by humans. That which is written and presented to us for our understanding by any human being, including Vyasacharya himself, or Shankaracharya, or any of the other acharyas, does have a certain input from human brain, but not solely from the human brain, because that would be distorted. It comes from an Apaurusheya text, a text which has no element of a human input. And there's only one such text. Variety of different forms called Veda. Nobody claims ownership of the Veda. And the end portion of the called Vedanta, again, nobody claims ownership, authorship. That has been available. And we are fortunate that the rishis were able to receive that and pass it on to us in many ways. But this information that you get is all in the form of sutras, aphorisms. And therefore, we need the help of somebody who has been at it for a long time and who has perhaps understood the import of what Shastra is trying to tell us, whom we accept as a guru. So I said, one is the Apaurusheya Grantha, All the Upanishads come under that category. And other grantha taking the same information, same analysis that's available in the Paurushiya grantha, putting it in a form which perhaps a little easier to understand by another human being. Now that human brain must be very, very sharp, very good, very analytical, extremely logical, in order to be able to take that, understand it, grasp it, and present it to us in a fashion which is easier to understand. We have the text called Bhagavad Gita, whose known author is Vyasacharya. In the Bhagavad Gita, when you try to study, if you take any one verse, you can understand the verse. It's true of any text, but any text relating to this knowledge. But let's take Bhagavad Gita as the one to look at. You can make out the meaning. Those of you who have studied the Bhagavad Gita know that there's a verse which says, that which is night to the wise person is like daytime for the unlearned, and the other way around. That's a literal meaning. Because you know Sanskritam, you can read it, you can translate the thing word by word, sentence by sentence, and come up with a meaning. Although grammatically correct and translation is correct, it's like Google translation. If you take the same thing and you take the shloka, use a Google translator and translate it into English. Now that I have the help from digital world, and then translate the same thing back into Sanskritam, you will find some very funny things happening. Because what you have translated is only the literal translation. Vachyartha. It makes no sense. Or one can make sense of it by making some assumptions. What to do? How to understand this? Each verse in the Gita is like that. 700 verses. Each one you can understand by reading the verse, looking up the dictionary, finding out the word meaning, finding out the sentence meaning, rearranging the word so it makes sensible sentence, grammatical sentence. You can make out a meaning. But it doesn't help much. It doesn't help much in the understanding of what we're trying to understand. Therefore, when you study any of these texts, including the Bhagavad Gita, it is strongly recommended that you read that text, you chant that text again and again and again and again. Why do they say this? Why is it said that I must chant all the 700 verses of the Bhagavad Gita end to end and go back and chant again? Like I said, if you have found a verse in the 5th chapter, which you understood the meaning of, by translating it word for word, or like I said, using Google Translate, when you read the rest of it and go back and read again from the beginning, it seems to assume a more sensible meaning. Therefore, there's something called Purva and Para. Any verse you take, unless you've read the previous ones and unless you've read the later ones, it doesn't give you the correct meaning. This is one. Second, every verse is actually interconnected because the central theme is the same. Central theme is knowledge about myself. What is the reality of I? So now when I've read this once, twice, thrice, 4 times, I'm able to relate. Oh, I read this. Oh, something like this I read in the 2nd chapter. Go back and flip and see what did I read. Something I read like this, I read in the 16th chapter. That may be related. I go look at that and say, what does it say? My meaning becomes better and better. So by each time I study the Bhagavad Gita, each time I peel off another layer of misunderstanding, and it becomes a little clearer. Ultimately, there is only one message, Tattvamasi. Tattvamasi, in crude translation, is you are Bhagavan. How in the world can I understand that? Read over and over again. But Swamiji, I read that so many times because of that I went to learn Sanskritam. I read this once, twice, thrice, 4 times. Makes some sense, but I still am not clear. How do you say that I am Bhagavan? So you need the help of a teacher who can take each verse, open it out, unfold it for us, and show what should be read as the meaning correctly. So we have people like Shankaracharya who writes Bashyam, commentary on each verse, who presents all the arguments, who presents all the logic, who presents the counter logic, and shows where the difference is and how one should correctly understand it. So you need that kind of help. So on one's own, one must study the Bhagavad Gita over and over and over again. One must chant it again and again and again. One can make a sankalpa that I will chant the Bhagavad Gita at least 6 chapters a day. So in 3 days, I finish all the 18 chapters. In a month, I've done it 10 times. There was the time we all did this. A lot of things become clear. We were chanting the first chapter, first Valli of Kathopanishad. And those of you who can understand the gist of the language, it is a dialogue between a teacher and a student, but it's not like a play where it says teacher and then what the teacher says is quoted, and then the student and what the student is quoted. It just lists that. There are not even inverted commas in there. Sanskritam doesn't even have inverted commas. So the first time you read it, even if you understand it, it becomes very confusing. Who said this? Was it Nachiketa who said this? Or was it Dharmaraja who said this? So you start beginning to understand by reading it again and again with the help of teacher. Now, many of you have gone through the lessons on Bhagavad Gita. Some of you, I'm sure, have studied it more than once. Some of you have studied the Bhagavad Gita only in part. Maybe you joined classes later, so you did only the last few chapters. And therefore, your connection with the first chapters, earlier chapters, is not so clear. So we'll have to go back and read that again. Go back and read that again. As it happens, see, the message is the same, whether you read the Bhagavad Gita or you read the Kathopanishad or any of the Upanishad. Message is the same. Therefore, whichever you read, called Samanvaya, the same message in any text you take. So now what happened? We've been studying this. Sometimes the thing looks very clear. Sometimes it doesn't look clear. Even when it looks clear, when I go back and think about it, it is still not clear. All of us go through that. You try after a class, catching hold of a friend and explaining to the friend what you learned in the class that day. Not so easy. Not so easy. Then suddenly, oh, maybe I didn't get this right, or maybe I forgot this, maybe I. So we are proposing a small exercise for all of you. All of you, like I said, some of you have studied the Bhagavad Gita more than once, some of you not studied at all, some of you studied partially. Therefore, at different levels of understanding. Like I said, each layer peels off one layer of non-understanding. So you'll have several layers. And by interacting with people of different levels of understanding, everybody will gain. And then there was a request from some of the people saying that we'd like this to be somewhat more interactive. So we had come up with this thing. As it happened, in the next 2 weeks, I'm traveling. So we cannot have classes. And a good opportunity for all of you to try and bring forth your understanding of what you studied in the Bhagavad Gita. Like I said, they're all interconnected. You will find there are so many verses in the first 6 chapters which are all about Sampada, which are related to the verses in the second 6 chapters, 7 to 12, which are about Tatpada, about Ishvara. Bhagavan talking about Bhagavan. And then also related to some verses in the last 6 chapters, which talks about the Aikyam, the oneness of the same. I am Ishvara. How to recognize this, how to understand this, how to put it in a fashion that my own brain understands it better. So we devised a small exercise. Each of your groups that you have already been sent to you, and each of you have selected a particular concept. It's not the word. If it's a Shraddha, for example, I'm not expecting that you will start redefining Shraddha from the beginning. Maybe you can, but that's not the core idea. What is Shraddha? What does the Gita have to say? Shraddha, at different places you will find the concepts are laid out in the Gita. One would have to look at many verses, in fact, all 700 verses, to be able to figure out, look at the connection. Take some thinking, some effort. So the idea of these groups is for the various people in the groups to interact with each other and work as a team, work as a cohesive group to take one concept that is available in the Gita, throughout, scattered in the Gita, and try and make sense of it. And try and make sense of it, present it to everybody else. In that, creating that presentation, that group itself will get more and more clarity. And when you make the presentation to all the others, we will also go look at the issue from that perspective. So that was the idea of this groups. I'll be back in the first week of September, and we can agree on a class or two in which each group can present this, their analysis, their findings, and discuss it with everybody else. The hope is that it will help all the people peel off more layers of non-understanding, get better and better understanding of the main theme of Bhagavad Gita and any other moksha. With that, broad introduction of why we did what we were asking you to do, what we're asking you to do, to make good use of the time available when we're not be able to do classes. I leave it open to check, see if there are any questions, any doubts, any uh, clarifications anybody might want in what the groups are expected to do. If there are any clarifications you want, ask now, or even post it later in the group. Wherever I am, I'll try and answer them. Over to you.
Can I ask something?
Sure.
Hari Om.
Om.
Am I audible?
Yes, you are, Arunaji.
I just wanted to ask, we are in a particular group and a particular group has selected one topic. But suppose in simultaneously we want to even understand the second topic. So can we at least have the access to that group's activity or whatever, or we can join that so that maybe more than one topic I can pick up as per my capabilities.
May I suggest that you stick with one topic, because each topic is large enough. Each concept is large enough to occupy your entire time. What will happen is when the other groups start presenting, they would have done some in-depth analysis of the other concepts. And when they make the presentation, we would have an opportunity to see how they've analyzed it, raise questions, ask for clarification, etc. So stick with one. Independently, if you want to do more studies, sure, do more studies. But for this specific project, please stick with one.
I just asked because I received a invitation from another group. So before I joined that group, I asked for the guidance.
Stay with the group that we created, because it will create confusion.
Okay. Dhanyavad.
I see a message from Ashwini ji that you've not studied the Bhagavad Gita. Please, I understand this. And like I said, I know that some of you have not had the opportunity earlier to study the Bhagavad Gita. But when you're in the group, and since it's only one specific concept, there'll be others who have studied the Gita, who probably, like I said, studied it more than once. That exercise itself will help you to get the grasp of what the Gita is. So do join in the meetings. Do take up a task in the group, which you can do, even though you've not read the Bhagavad Gita, which is something you can easily do. So a good team works on the strengths of each member. So depending upon each person's strength, allocate jobs to each other in such a fashion that everybody has some contribution, small or big, it doesn't matter. It's a process of learning. Chaitanya, the same message goes to you as well. So there are no further questions. Like this, you can always ask later. Anju, okay. No, because it's saying Ashwin Agarwal, so I'm wondering. Anju, how are you? Good.
I'm good, yeah.
Yeah. Somebody says, what are we expected to present? That I leave entirely to the group. They can decide who will present, what they will present, how they will present. They want to use a PowerPoint, they want to use some other methodology. Entirely up to the group to do that. Idea is to expound on that concept as available in the Gita. Okay. With that, I'll really take leave of you for the next couple of weeks. I'll get back to you. I'm like I said, I'm back on the first week of September. We will schedule these presentations immediately after that. Somebody asked me about the duration of the presentation. I think we should allow about anywhere between 15 and 20 minutes for the presentation, and allow another 10 minutes for the for any discussion that might be held in that. So in a 1 hour period, we may be able to do maximum 3 groups. So at least 2 such sessions we'll have to have. But keep it crisp, keep it enough time. 15 minutes is a long time. Okay, we'll finish for the day. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi
Harihi
Om.
Om.